listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, and
Baz Luhrmann.
I
directed Elvis.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Wow, we've got him in the studio,
It
everybody.
was amazing. I did it all by myself and no one helped.
Is the mastermind, Baz Luhrmann, coming to you live.
Honestly, I feel like
see him say that.
I don't know much about Hill. I could see. I'm trying to think of a good director that just seems fitting for.
JC.
Yeah, James Cameron, a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe Zack Snyder.
Well, no. I feel like Zack Snyder's. He's just
Could
bombastic
you imagine
and
Zack Snyder Elvis movie? Like
actually, that would have been
insane.
amazing. That would be amazing. I'd be okay with that. Truth be told, I don't know if I'd be okay with it. I want to see it.
Yeah,
and I don't. And here's the thing: I want to just fast forward through whatever the regular cut is. I want to see the Zack Snyder cut.
Zack Snyder
from the start.
Yes.
Okay. Still waiting on. Well, after this movie,
this is Memphis. Yes,
but no, we actually have another director's cut. That's gosh, that noise is just.
It bothers you, don't it?
Well, like
I
me
wasn't
eating my
slurping.
food.
You're slurping.
Keith wanted to run and grab his coffee. Before
I wanted to.
I told
not,
him no.
I wanted to not be here when it opened, so everybody thought, "Where's Keith?" And you could be like, "We
died.
murdered him."
COVID. That
I
B1
guess.
variant's
Too
coming
soon.
around.
Too soon. It's been 2 years.
B1, the
It's too
Baz
soon.
one.
Baz 1's
Baz
around.
one.
Actually, it would
Man.
be funny if we just had toilet paper lined up and we went back like it was the beginning of the pandemic and just acted like, oh my gosh, it's happening, guys.
Yes. That's very fitting.
Very, very fitting. Because we would know immediately, no, we're not in the Twilight Zone.
Apparently, there's
That's
a
real
Twilight
life.
Zone
Are we in
like
the danger
VR
zone?
game that's coming out.
Ooh.
Like for the Oculus. Or,
I don't know.
I'm sorry,
Like,
the Meta Quest.
some stuff is like it depends.
They changed the name of
It depends.
When you're done,
I'd be
you're
curious.
in the game.
Yeah.
Actually,
Jumanji.
there was a
Just get
freaking
pulled right in.
Yeah.
a great episode of, I don't know if y'all remember this, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Where it's got like this little,
I remember a clown, and
What?
that's about it.
a clown. No, there was one of those
I know
episodes.
there was.
But this one was like a, I think the correct PC term is little person.
Oh.
That was in
midget?
the episode. Yes, a midget who had a CPU
Or dwarf.
like glued on his hand, and he was this virus in the computer.
Oh.
I mean, come on, talk about non-PC.
I don't remember that
a midget
episode.
Like
as
a-
the virus.
A Pentium 4?
Celeron processor.
Celeron.
Yeah, but it was a very good like creepy
I
episode.
liked Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
That and Goosebumps.
Goosebumps was good.
They were
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
great. And Goosebumps, I think, had better movies. Which Are You Afraid of the Dark never tried to do a movie?
Well, they weren't
but
really.
their
They were
episodes
just. They were
better.
2-part episodes that they just put out on VHS as a movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but
right.
still, the fact
Yeah.
that they did 2-part episodes like that was still cool.
You
Me and
always
Sawyer's
wanted
been
them-
watching the old ones.
Goosebumps.
Oh,
The old Goosebumps.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
heck
yeah,
yeah.
They're great. I
Yeah.
love them.
They're
I've watched them still as an adult.
They're fantastic.
Same. My niece loves it. Like even like when it's not Halloween, she'll be like, "Can we watch Goosebumps?" It's like,
No, absolutely.
why not?
I mean, the fact that they
Horror's
actually
an every
want
time
to,
of year thing.
now it is.
Yeah.
Now times.
Now times.
Now times.
In the now.
That's right.
now.
We do have a great show. We were talking about a director's cut of the one, the only, the big movie on the block this week, Thor.
There will be none, but we'll get
Love
there.
and Thunder.
We'll
but
get
yeah,
there.
Taika Waititi's already said,
Taika
even
said
though
no.
he's rumored that he had to cut a lot of stuff,
Yeah.
he said no. I don't want a director's cut.
Well, he just come out and said he was gonna. He
No,
would
no,
love
no,
to
no.
have a director's
he
cut.
said that there was a lot that they cut
He
out.
said everything that cut was cut for a reason.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah. He said there was too many jokes, so he had to cut it
Too
down.
many
Yeah.
jokes?
Yeah. We're gonna get there.
Yeah.
So just imagine if there's still too many jokes, how many were there after the director's
This is
cut?
basically going to tell everybody what we think about it. But yeah, when I read that, I was like, well, if it was a dumpster fire before you made edits, I don't want to see what the director's cut looks like.
We're alluding to
don't
what
know.
our review states. I don't think.
We started talking about it a little bit next door, and Kristen hadn't seen it yet, so she was just like,
no spoilers.
Yeah,
we don't want to do that.
If you haven't seen Thor: Love and Thunder, just turn it off now.
Well,
Come
you
back in
can
about
listen
10
to the
minutes.
review.
The review has no spoilers.
No
Okay.
spoilers in the
okay.
review. But as always, the discussion afterward definitely
Yes.
will divulge into spoilers.
Mm.
So, of course, without further ado, so Keith can get his coffee, let's go ahead and dive into our review of Thor: Love and Thunder.
Marvel continues to blow up the box office with their highly anticipated film, Thor: Love and Thunder. Though this far into Phase 4, it's clear to see cracks are showing. Returning to the director's chair after helming the highly successful third entry in the Thor franchise, Thor Ragnarok, is Taika Waititi. But alas, no one can stay on top forever, as this is the first Waititi film I've seen that's failed to connect with me in humor and emotion. All of Waititi's films have been bizarre and quirky, with many having silly humor but also tongue-in-cheek wit. Several also find a beautiful balance between off-the-rails comedy and stirring sentiments and powerful emotion. Waititi brought much of these things to Ragnarok, and while it was still mostly a big action flick packed with special effects and comedy, it still knew when to pull back the reins and let story and some emotion in, at least to the extent we expected from Marvel. Unfortunately, Love and Thunder is emblematic of the MCU's Phase 4 as a whole. It doesn't seem to matter much in the grander scheme of things, just like much of Marvel lately. Simply put, Love and Thunder is all over the place. All of Phase 4 has felt this way, a gripe big enough amongst fans that even Kevin Feige himself has promised to reveal the bigger picture, quote-unquote, soon, whatever that means. As of now, we still have no clear direction. At least other Phase 4 films have been mostly cohesive to themselves, or lackluster as a whole, like Multiverse of Madness and Eternals. Love and Thunder isn't just all over the place concerning whatever larger narrative the MCU is now trying to tell, but within its own self-contained story too. We jump from outlandish moment to outlandish moment with every humorous aspect of Ragnarok amped up times 100. Sometimes the bizarre and off-the-wall visuals are just too over the top. But it's not just the humor that fails to consistently land. The story itself jumps around needlessly with too many plot points and characters mashed together, and none of them matter to much of anything in the end. We see the return of Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, now taking up the mantle of Mighty Thor, and while the most serious and emotional moments from the film do revolve around her and Thor, the original one's, relationship, even those moments aren't allowed to sink in before something batshit crazy interrupts, killing the moment. The film has no true substance. Its message of love doesn't convey anything profound or universal, as the film never truly lends weight to what love and commitment to a person truly is, instead opting for superfluous live-in-the-moment nonsense. The same is true for the film's villain, the only other character whose plot gets any semblance of solemnness. The storyline revolving around Gore the God Butcher, played by Christian Bale, is just used as an excuse to create more content. Now we can introduce other gods, and we can have Thor and Jane fight together. But the themes revolving around why Gore renounces his god and wants to slay all other gods is also turned into a joke 80% of the time. What's hard to stomach is how much potential is there. The story surrounding how and why Jane is granted the powers of Thor, and the rekindling of their romance and why they first broke up, could have been an emotional powerhouse on its own. The story about a man who feels wronged by the god he held the most faith in, and why he believes all gods to be false deities not worthy of those who worship them, is another story that could have carried rich themes and depth. Instead, we get screaming goats. Sure, Love and Thunder is a comic book movie. It doesn't have to be Schindler's List, and shouldn't, but that doesn't mean it has to lack any depth either. There's plenty of action and spectacle, and if that's all you want, you'll be plenty satisfied. But if you're wanting more than the theme park ride Marvel has been accused of being, this movie isn't going to prove the naysayers wrong. I give Thor: Love and Thunder 2.5 out of 4 stars.
Wow, 2.5 out of 4 stars for Thor: Love and Thunder there.
Because Ragnarok was my favorite of the Thor films.
Yeah,
so.
that was also directed by Taika Waititi.
Actually, this is the first movie of his I haven't liked. His other, because he does does have that quirky, bizarre sense of humor, but it never overpowers like the emotional moments in his other movies or the wit, because Hunt for the Wilder People had good emotion and comedy. What We Do in the Shadows didn't have a lot of the emotional aspect, but it had a lot lot of wit and intelligence in the humor.
Jojo Rabbit.
Jojo Rabbit was very, very powerful.
You owe me a porter.
Yeah. Jojo Rabbit made me cry, so that one was great.
Yeah.
So it was just, I think, disappointing to see that. It was almost like they were like, yeah, you did such a great job with Ragnarok, and then you were nominated for Oscars with Jojo Rabbit. Just do what you want. And he just went wild with it, and it just had no
Patty
substance.
Jenkins, Wonder Woman 84 2.0.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's what it felt like.
I was more entertained by this than that, but yes, it was very much.
I wasn't
just,
comparing.
Oh, I
directly.
know. I just he did. He went, I can do what I want, and he did, and none of it really had substance. I don't know, people like I've seen people argue already. Well, the storyline with Jane and the spoiler alert, her getting cancer, the storyline with Gore and killing the gods is like, yeah, but they were very superficial.
Yeah,
there wasn't any like depth to. You're supposed to, like, yes, you're supposed to feel emotion because she has cancer and because Gore feels forsaken by his god and wants vengeance, but you never really believe it. Like that, they never touch on any of the depths from the comic book storyline about like all of this going on. Like in fact. Even Thor himself wasn't an admirable god in this movie. So at some point, I'm just like, why do we care about him killing the gods? They are all jackasses in this movie.
Yeah.
Well, and you had even said something, and this may be getting a little too deep into the lore, but you're a resident comic book nerd on the show, Keith.
The
so
coffee's good.
By all means, embrace it.
Embrace it.
We were talking about how even
you.
in the series or even in the movie, they get to the city of the gods. And they say something that alludes to the Eternals they're watching over the city.
They showed some Celestials outside.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
They're outside like the building looking in because all the gods are there. And I thought that kind of odd because you have like the gods that are based on all of real life gods in the comics,
right.
like Zeus, Hercules, all the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods. They all exist in the comics. But they're kind of like little g gods as far as like the Celestials are kind of a higher tier in power. And I thought it was odd because they didn't give us any explanation for a lot of what's going on in the Eternals movie. And then they throw them in, I guess, as Easter eggs in this, but still showing them is alluding to the fact that they're like amongst these gods. And I'm like, but that if they're creating the universe and supposedly the gods that exist within these earths and universe, they're a higher tier. Why do they really care what's going on with these gods? Like those gods would be beneath them. They don't care.
Well, not only that, but Gore would pose no threat to them. And I feel like the city of the gods.
Kind of in the comics he would, but he doesn't have
they were hiding
that power
there. I mean, it felt like it was a place for them to lay low and hide.
Yeah, Zeus did say, he's like, Gore will never find us here. We're all safe. So, in the comics, he definitely would have been, I think, a little bit more of a threat to the Celestials. But in this movie, no, they never give him more power than just the sword kind of curses.
I'm just saying, just as we can't destroy God, anything they created wouldn't be able to destroy the Celestials.
And that's, well, because they don't go into any of that depth in this either, but his sword is actually from, like, the god or creator of the symbiote hive mind who's exists. Like, he's same, like, basically same level as Celestial. So Gore does have kind of a lot of power there.
We don't get any of that.
But you don't get any of that. Because
another thing that you mentioned.
I didn't expect them to go right down that rabbit hole in this movie, but I thought maybe they would leave Easter eggs so they could build towards one day. But go ahead.
No, the
what
other
are they
thing,
building towards?
Exactly.
No, exactly. Well, but you had mentioned something about the Necron sword too.
That's what. Yeah, the Necro sword is what he has.
Or the
in
Necro
this.
sword. But it was like the fact that even is briefly alluded to, but you really, other than the initial entrance of that as a plot device, you just get, the shadow comes out of it. It lands in his hands. He's now dark. And then that's just supposed to be all-consuming, I suppose.
It does have like kind of a sentience of its own, which they kind of allude to in this when it's whispering to him, like, kill the gods.
Yeah.
But it's made out of basically the same thing as symbiotes. It can't overtake the body like the symbiotes, but it still has that same, like, it's connected to that same hive mind. So
okay, so without going
in the comics, in this, they were just
without going into any more of the lore, let's head over to Sean. What did you think of the film in terms of just spectacle and as a whole, as a movie?
Coming out of the movie, actually, I was at 2.5, and on the ride home, I mulled it over and just kind of recapped some of the things that I had seen and some of the things that I just couldn't stand, and I lowered the score down to just a flat 2.
Same.
I definitely, I was entertained more with this movie than I was with Multiverse of Madness. and some of the other recent Marvel movies, other than No Way Home. But it just to echo what Keith said in the review, there was no substance. There was too much comedic aspects to it.
Too silly.
And the jokes were over, and some of them were good, and it's like, but they're over, so just let it die, move on. And they just kept rehashing the same jokes, whether it be the love triangle between him and the axe and the hammer, and the goats, and just so many different things. Even him being declothed by Zeus, I felt like that was completely it ran its course. It was funny when it first happens, but they just keep going and going and going.
The orgy in that scene, went overboard.
Well, I mean,
like, it was funny
again,
the first time.
It fits with Greek mythology, but it was over and over.
I'll give it that. But then when he keeps going on and saying you're not invited to the orgy
I'm
anymore,
like, okay, we get it. We know it's
yeah.
orgy, funny, ha ha.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's like, try explaining that to a child that goes to see the movie, what an orgy is.
Because Zeus is kind of vain in Greek mythology, but they did, I think, like they did. Everything was taking to like the extreme in like, okay, here's their character archetype, and we're gonna take that times 100 with everything, and even the whole city of the gods thing. Like I told Sean, I was like, I did laugh at like Korg's god, the Ninny of the Nani. I thought that was funny. Like, hey, Ninny Nani. But other than that, like that one little weird moment would have been fun. But then, like you said, you had Bao, the god of dumplings.
Yeah,
and I was
that
like,
was
what?
stupid. It was like an emoji, or something.
Well, it's from the Disney short. Like, so it was like an Easter egg to a little Disney short about.
I think it was right
or
before I forget what Pixar movie it was. Right. Before.
Yeah, but either way, it's like, why is it in this? I mean, other than yes, it's owned by Disney too.
For a comedic moment.
I know, but
that's it. Yeah.
But it breaks so much. Like, that's the problem I had with Multiverse of Madness, is that with the whole Infinity Saga, yes, there are outlandish things, but they always tie it into some type of like reality within that world of how their physics work and how things work. Mm-hmm. There's kind of a basic understanding and a believability to a lot of even like the Infinity Stones with how they explain like their existence and how they control space, time, reality, all the things. And then now it's just kind of like, because everybody was able to believe all the other crazy stuff before, they don't bother explaining anything. It's just kind of like, oh, anything can happen with the multiverse. Oh, gods can do anything because they're gods. It's like, I agree with that, but when like I told you, like when he gives the kids his power at the end, it really bothered me.
Yeah,
because it's like, since when could he do this? And it's not that in the comics he couldn't.
Why didn't he do it to defeat Thanos?
Yeah, why not? Because, in the comics, like he wouldn't have that power until he became the All-Father after Odin, which makes sense. But he rejected that in the movies. He said he made Valkyrie. Yeah. He told Valkyrie, "You're king now." So I'm just like, there's no explanation.
So does she have the power?
I doubt it, because I don't know, maybe, but I mean, it wasn't.
She can't summon the Bifrost.
It wasn't.
She can't do any of that.
It wasn't passed on to her from Odin, so I guess
she
not.
was another character in this that I actually like Valkyrie's character, and she was completely wasted in this.
Yeah.
We literally see her as a punchline, being the king of this island.
Korg in this
and all of a
wasn't
sudden she's doing Old Spice commercials.
Yeah.
And it's like, ha funny, and then she gets the chance to jump back in the hoorah.
Well, it
like
poked too much fun at previous films. Like it had the freaking Infinity Stones ice cream cone and all that weird stuff. I'm just like, you're talking about stuff that you're talking about billions of
mass
people.
Genocide.
And you're making light of it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like, it'd be like us making COVID candies or something like that right now. It's
I'd
like,
be for that.
But
probably
with everything being comical, even like Korg, who was before comic relief, like it's like he fell flat because everything was forced, and then it's like, okay, if everything's comedy, he can't be comedy now because he's just part of everything else. Like I don't know.
So what about we do this way too often on the show. Things roll into politics and the culture.
Yeah, it's
and all
hard
that,
to avoid.
What do you think about the huge push towards the LGBT thing in this movie?
Well, it's not like we didn't see it coming. I mean, Disney's said like everything they do now will have
Right, I know, but Eternals was bad enough, and then you've got
for
this
me,
was overboard.
It's also like how it's.
Well,
how it's,
I think it's what everybody feared the moment that everybody knew. And you're gonna. I mean, anybody's gonna take this on the political left as like, oh, this is a champion moment. We're gonna cheer this on. But that's the problem. I'll put it in this light for all of our viewers who think I'm just biased. And I've told this to you all off camera. It's like, for me, I judge these films now in the same way I'm going to judge a terrible Christian film.
Yeah.
When your values are put forth before the actual substance of the plot in the movie, then you've basically lost your entire reason for being a film. It's no longer about entertainment, it's about message. Mm-hmm. And so much of this movie was through the jokes and the humorous, silly nature of the film, and through the woke messages that were just layered, not in one or two subtle moments, but just consistently like, hey, we got to remind you we're woke. Hey, we got to remind you we're pushing LGBTQ. Like, all of these things were just constantly brought up throughout the film. Even the whole, even women's lib. It's like they literally have the movie start with, Jane Fonda. Oh, no, that wasn't her name. Then it's, Jodie Foster. Yeah. No, that wasn't her name. Yeah. By the end, she's Dr. Jane Foster. Yeah. And she's got this statue
she's not
because
Thor,
she's
the mighty Thor.
Right. Right. And even Keith was the one that reminded me that this through line of stories in the comics was only, 10 years ago?
I think
that they brought up the mighty Thor.
The mighty Thor Jane storyline was 2014. I could be wrong.
It's even more recent than I thought.
I think I'd have to double check.
But I just ultimately, again, so much of this movie and what Disney has done, and this is the problem with this phase in general, and I told you right after the movie finished, I said I just don't care about Marvel anymore. Yeah. For me, the Infinity Saga is all I need for Marvel. That's it. I'm done with closing that chapter and saying, hey, I've got my fill. I've enjoyed my superhero movies. They're going to continue to make bang off these movies. They're going to continue to make buku bucks. That's fine. But they've proven with this Phase 4 that they haven't had the depth or the breadth of vision that they showed off, that they took a risk on with the original Infinity Saga. And I'm just not... I'll go see them because they're the next big blockbuster, and of course I'm still willing to pay a ticket price at least right now. But my interest is fading. Yeah. And I ultimately do not care what's coming next. I'll go see it, but I'm not looking forward to it. Yeah. And that was the ultimate disappointment to me. And a part of that was just how blatantly in your face just some of the woke messages was.
Go ahead.
I was reading through some of the critic reviews and I told him this earlier, on Rotten Tomatoes, because critics aren't really liking it that much either. I think it's at 68% critic. But one of them, which is one of their top critics or whatever, he was writing, and I agreed with him completely. Keep in mind, most movie critics are on the left-leaning, know. But he said this movie felt like they gave Taika Waititi a megaphone and just said, just scream what you believe and force a message into every scene you possibly can. Whether or not that message gets delivered in the right way, be damned. Like, we don't care. Just push it in there. And that's exactly how I felt. Like, don't get me wrong. As someone who believes in freedom, now I have values. There's things that I'm not willing to let tarnish my own beliefs or my own faith or what I teach my children. But the LGBTQ community, they have if that's what they want their place, they have it. They should be free to do so without infringing on anyone else's freedoms to not like it or to not accept it. If you want to put that message in a movie, the movie Philadelphia was not a movie that I really enjoyed that much, but I felt like it did put a message of not only the situation with AIDS and homosexuality and the legality of some of these, like, it did it in a way where I felt like the message was delivered and it was done with good acting. It was done with a good story and good direction. And whether I agree with the message or not, at least that movie does the message justice. Now, when you're going to shoehorn all of these messages into a film and then not even give it the love, which is kind of funny because that's what the movie's supposed to be all about, you don't even give it the love and the care to promote that message in a way that is positive towards that community, then I'm just like, you don't even believe it.
It's virtue signaling.
Exactly. It's social justice. Yep. And that's what I felt like this film was. I agree 100% with that liberal critic, because he goes into some other things that I disagree with him. But when he says
pandering.
that,
That's all it is.
he's like, I'm a part of this community, and you just made it a joke, and you didn't give any credence to what it is that we really are trying to fight for. And I'm like,
I just wanted to
say
say I double
go ahead.
checked and I was wrong. It was not 2014. It was 2015. So
one year later.
1 year off, yeah.
But the thing is, Sean, I completely agree. I mean, for me, I would say that when you do a disservice, I texted Sean, and this is kind of off topic, but it plays into the same role. Or I texted Keith that I'm watching through Scrubs.
Yeah.
And there is an episode in the first season that literally is about Turk, who is a black character, being put up on billboards to represent the hospital. Yeah. And his argument is to not be the token black guy. Yeah. And I'm like, the whole episode is that he wanted it to be based off of merit. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, how is it that we literally in the last 20 years have moved away from a message of meritocracy into no, celebrate my individualism at the point of, because what it really shows is the selfishness that comes out with a lot of these communities. They don't want to be treated as equals. They want to be treated better than, because they think in some way for all these years they've been trounced on, so now they deserve a spotlight. And the problem with that is that no, it's not that you ever were trounced on, it's that you weren't taken seriously or your motivation wasn't. And ultimately this is showing you for who you really are, which is again a selfish motivation of, I should be celebrated in my own life and the way I want to live it. And again, I think it shows through in this movie the true colors of just how pandering to that community is. It's like, are they just a cheap ticket buy? Is it now going to be that we expect LGBTQ or multi-diversity angles in Disney films solely because we want to sell ticket prices? Because at the end of the day, when you had diversity, but it was just diversity for the sake of saying, look, we have an inclusion of all kinds, but we're actually going to still have a breadth of depth and life to these characters. I can remember a time in my life when the argument for LGBTQ rights, it wasn't even that, it was just LGB. Like it was when it was just those rights. Yeah. And it was literally for the purpose of just saying, we don't want to be recognized as this. We don't want this to be who we identify as. This isn't our sole purpose for existence. And I would hope that louder voices in that kind of community would speak out against the kind of pandering that's done in this film, and that Disney seems to continue to beat that drum, because we are getting it in not only just one aspect of Marvel films, but across the board. Yeah. And you can say it's representation, but what it is when you don't have a decent story or a plot point, like in the movie Philadelphia,
bad representation.
It's terrible representation. Yeah. The same reason as a believer, as a Christian, I will continue to not defend God's Not Dead.
Yep.
Because it is a terrible movie.
Yep.
And it puts its values and its principles and message ahead of an actual good story. And there's better stories to be told that can tell the same values that Christians want to pass along and be done in a better way.
Yep.
And you do yourself and your community a disservice when you don't treat them respectfully and equally. Yep. And so I really do think that is a huge miss in this film. And partly why I think you're going to continue to see the trend of Marvel movies. I know it made buku dollars, but give it time. These things do affect the bottom dollar over the course of time. And if Marvel continues down this path of being subpar with their overall storyline, I mean, we talked about it after we left the theater. We're 6 movies into this phase.
And I have no idea what's going on.
I pulled a thing. Well, I didn't expect, because they kind of played this, like, hyped this one up as just being a solo Thor, so I got that. But they hyped up Multiverse of Madness huge as being a huge puzzle piece in the next thing, and it didn't do nothing.
No.
And that's what's really bothered me is I was going to pull this image up I found online from IGN. Hold on. Here we go. Phase 1, this is from IGN, MCU runtimes by phase. Phase 1 had 6 films, 12.4 hours. Phase 2, 6 films, 12.7 hours. Phase 3, 11 films, 24.9 hours. Phase 4 so far has had 6 films and 7 shows for 49.5 hours. And we still don't know what's
going on.
Yeah, it's
almost
it's
double.
Even by
it's
runtime.
It's like the same. Yeah, it's almost the same runtime or more as all three of the
yeah.
original phases.
Wow.
And we still have no... And Kevin Feige has said in the coming months after Thor, we'd understand more. They have a Comic-Con this month that they have a panel at, and there's D23 in September.
Okay.
But they do have I did read today, there's going to be a panel on one of the days at Comic-Con called The Next Big Thing from Marvel. So I guess they've decided, well, we're going to announce everything. I don't know. Hopefully, they're trying to see how much people are like, what the hell's going on, that I guess now they're going to start telling people, this is what we're building towards. But the problem is your movies should tell us what you're building
that's
towards.
Right. I shouldn't need a panel.
Yeah. True.
I should be able to see it in the films or at least in the end credits.
Yeah.
And even the end credits of this brought just more... It
Question-
just brought up
you
more
just
questions
Hercules.
about where we're going.
It's like, okay, Hercules is in it now. Cool.
Roy Kent, great.
Yeah.
Good job.
Actually, I think that was a perfect casting, but it doesn't matter. If the movie's going to be garbage anyways, it doesn't matter if the casting's
Yeah, I mean,
good.
Hercules would just be another guy for Thor to beat. Like,
Yep.
what, I mean...
Well, he becomes an Avenger in the comics. Hercules does, but
okay.
we'll see. I don't know what they're going. I have no idea what they're going towards.
I don't either, especially throwing in the little girl at the end. I'm like, okay,
she doesn't even exist in the comics.
Yeah,
though that
no
is Chris
clue why
Hemsworth's
she's-
actual daughter in real life. I did read that.
But and I'm like, okay, great,
okay.
that's sweet. But
Yeah.
what does that have to do with the film and where we're going? Is she going to literally be?
I
in the
told
rest
you,
of
I
these,
think
these
because
films?
they've introduced other characters from the Young Avengers that maybe they're going to do that at some point. But again, I don't know because everything's so sporadic.
We haven't.
There's been so many hints at so much.
I'm emotionally torn because I feel like I still haven't had a proper goodbye to the original Avengers.
Yeah.
Yes, we've had Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yes, we've had somewhat Scarlet Witch being torn off, but there's
the
been
only
no,
good emotional end cap we've had
is
has been for
Endgame?
Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was it. And that was because of the Spider-Man as a whole, not just the MCU.
Right, because we still know that Tom Holland's still Spider-Man. We just don't know to what capacity.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm just like, I'm so torn with 6 films in this phase. And I'm like,
7 series.
Yeah.
no,
50 hours of content.
And that's another thing. You actually, you bring up a really good point. If you really think about it, they've had more in terms of plot devices because they've had the shows on Disney Plus that have supposedly added to the content.
They're supposed to.
But yet, even with that extra added material, we still come up short. We come up empty.
Literally
Feeling
the only,
empty-handed.
out of all 7 shows, the only one I felt like is building towards something bigger, and I still don't know because they have...
Moon Knight?
No, was Loki.
Loki.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, WandaVision kind of built towards multiverse a little bit, but then when you got to
They
multiverse...
really jumped
It
ahead.
stops.
Yeah.
Multiverse just shuts that
Yeah,
down.
they
They're
just...
like,
yeah.
Well, they just skipped to where you thought it was going.
Yeah. Like,
They
I
just jumped-
knew where she was going in WandaVision, but then when you get to multiverse, it's like she's just there already.
She's there.
And I was like, okay.
I don't know if I agree with Jacob Burris, but he said Tom Holland is Spider-Man in this universe. I was like, I still
Tobey
actually,
Maguire.
I like Andy Garfield, man. I'm telling you,
he redeemed himself.
he
in
did.
No Way
I
Home.
think if he would have had a better deal, he had a raw deal with the Amazing
If they had
Spider-Man.
someone better making the movie,
Yes,
like better writing,
I agree.
you know.
he was good, but you cannot beat the
Toby.
original.
That
I
Saturday
get it.
Night Strut and
I get it.
Spider-Man 3, man.
That cemented him as Spider-Man right there.
That's
Yeah.
But no,
man.
I actually, it's funny. I wish Jacob would let us know because he texted us. And
Oh, he
told us
didn't care for
He
he
hated
loves
Multiverse of Madness.
Oh,
he thought
yeah.
it was stupid.
and he loved the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah, first Doctor Strange was good.
And well, that was the thing. Ragnarok was good. I liked Thor Ragnarok, and I like Taika Waititi normally, but now it's like he's even on this bent of I'm no longer going to make movies that have a great message. I'm going to make movies that promote what message I want.
Well,
And
yeah.
I
mean,
just-
even the show that he's affiliated with from HBO that we've tried to watch and talked about, the Our Flag Means Death. It's just
it started really good.
Yeah, it starts off good, but then it just is forced upon you.
I also think too, and I told Sean this leaving the theater, because I actually do want to, before we completely are done talking about Thor, we always go a little longer on the Marvel movies because they are such a huge pillar of pop
Well,
culture. But I do wanted to bring up, I honestly think his whole messaging in this film tends to go more towards not the LGBTQ community as much as it does towards the gender affirming community of just everything's fluid and it doesn't really matter.
The scene
who
with
you
Korg
at
at the end,
yes,
cements that. 100%.
Right.
Well,
Well,
that was
and I even
that was the
said-
scene that offended me the
and
most.
maybe this is looking too deep into it, but I even said in a subtle way, and I agree it's a little different when you're talking about a kid who has an imagination. But I said the whole thing with Axel which is Heimdall's kid, and him wanting to keep insisting he be called Axel.
Yeah.
And then Thor gives into that and refers to him as Axel.
Yeah, he's like, your father gave you a great name. And,
right.
But then,
and I told Sean, I said, it would have been great if he had actually chose Axel, and then when he gets to that moment, and Thor is willing to call him that, and he goes, no.
Well, out of respect for his father, who was a great Asgardian who died,
Right. And
but
then you make light of Heimdall too in the end credit scene.
That was so stupid. Like, I already knew she went to everything in the movie sets it up to that, and then you see like her fade away as all the other gods do. So it's like, oh, she's turning into dust. She went to Valhalla. Then we needed everything was just over the head. It's like it wasn't good enough to leave it at the
Valhalla.
Yeah, it's like thanks. Bad. We were already aware of that. I didn't know we needed a scene.
I hate to say it was terribly CG.
Oh,
it was totally.
It was all
shot
green screen. Yeah,
and
I don't even think they were there together. They probably filmed them separately and just.
Well, and this is the reason why I want to critique even that is because part of the movie that I actually did enjoy were some of the spectacle scenes, two in particular, and that was the final fight. Minus the kids. Or actually, it was after the final fight. It was the part where they go and he's in front of
Eternity.
Actually,
I thought the way they made Eternity look good was. I
thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome visual. Still probably stolen from video games I've played.
I mean, it's in the
Kingdom
comics.
Hearts,
like they went straight from the comics, so I'll give them that. But it looked good.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
But also, even the scene where they do go into black and white, and they have one of the best set piece battles is on the planet. And when they're fighting in black and white, and I thought this looks absolutely amazing. I thought the way they transitioned to it could have been a little bit more subtle. I thought Tessa Thompson, it like literally shows go from color to black and white. And she just goes, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
And they discussed it before they got there.
Yeah, they already discussed it that there's no color because it like everything's sucked out.
Devoid of that. And then the one thing about that scene too that I really did think was visually stunning was the fact that the light that emanates from the axe and the hammer actually cast color on them.
Yeah.
So when Jane holds
hue
up her
of blue, but
axe,
you can actually see
it does
color.
show the color in her lips and skin and everything. I thought, wow, that's an awesome way of bringing that color into it.
There were those moments that, like, because Taika Waititi, like, we've seen Jojo Rabbit, like, we know he can do depth, but it was just that was what really disappointed me is because there were so many moments in this that I felt like could have been amazing. And first, they merged two storylines together because Gore and Mighty Thor, Jane, are two separate in the comics. And I think they tried to cram too much
theme.
Yeah, I think they tried to cram too much stuff into this movie that needed more time to breathe.
Same with Multiverse of Madness and what's her name, America's Story, and then him going
America's Chavez,
and Scarlet Witch.
I thought the whole issue with him wanting to kill all the gods because his forsook him is a powerful message, like for him to learn that maybe he's wrong, and they didn't give any type of seriousness to that aspect of faith or what the gods should or shouldn't be. And I mean, it is. Granted, I mean they're all more mythological, secular gods in the Marvel comics, but it's still they're real within that world. So you could still do just like I said with X-Men being a great kind of representation for discrimination, but on a macro real world level, you could have done something like that with this. But nobody's interested in doing those things.
Just think what they're gonna do with X-Men when they get around to that.
It'll be crazy woke.
It's gonna have to be. The way these movies are headed. Plus, I like what you brought up there with the. It's funny how I was trying to talk about something positive, but
sorry.
No, that's fine because I agree. It's like you introduce now these plethora of gods, not just Zeus, but the actual connection of Thor to all these others, and it's like they do nothing interesting with that plot development. It's just like, oh, we go to the city and there's all these gods here, and then I'm like. Okay, what do they have to do and to offer to this story? They don't even have a story of their own.
Within the realm of the MCU, I don't even know why I should care that they're all being murdered. Because especially this movie showed me that they were all terrible anyways.
Yeah, true. They deserve that. Yeah. Well, and I will say again, maybe I'm looking too far into it, but I thought the actual beginning scene, when you see Christian Bale's Gore going up to the god that he does kill.
Yeah.
And the way he gets to this forest, and I'm like, I thought it was a little too on the nose that it's like, okay, his child dies, and immediately after his child dies, there's now this
oasis.
Well, the fact that he prayed for salvation, and then she dies, and then salvation shows up.
Exactly,
a little too late.
Only for the god to then mock him and
to be callous and be like, I don't care about you.
I don't care about you. You're here to serve me. I thought that was a little too okay. Again. like you said, okay, now you're just not only thumbing your nose at anybody who may have faith, but it's like, what do we have faith in? Let's just kill all the gods.
Because the point of the
it's
comics
supposed to make you somehow now feel vindictive and also on the side of Gore the Butcher. So why do I care that he doesn't succeed?
Well, that's the thing, is because they don't showcase in this movie any gods that are worth like worshiping. I mean, even Thor himself is arrogant in this movie. When I told Sean in the first movie, you know, his whole lesson, his whole character growth is to learn how to be worthy of being king and a god. And, you know, Odin tells him he's a vain, greedy, cruel boy. And until he's worthy, like, he can't become king. And you see his character arc, him becoming worthy in the first one, him learning, like, who he is and, like, finally accepting his role by the end of Ragnarok. And then they undo all of that. And I'm like, so what was the point of his whole character arc throughout the whole Infinity Saga when now he's back to just being this arrogant jackass?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Waititi, you know, retconned his own movie.
Yeah.
It's just, I
He
mean,
JJ'd
yeah,
himself.
You're right.
I mean,
Yeah, but even like you said at the end of the movie, even the end of Gore the Butcher is the fact that
was terrible.
Yeah, it's just like, okay,
Cliche.
so all he really wanted was love,
Just love.
Yeah.
and it's like, well, you mentioned, and I think you hit it on the nose. You're just like, yeah, that's all Hitler wanted too. It's
Yeah.
he was just misunderstood,
That
victim
to
of
me,
circumstance,
exactly.
Yeah.
or whatever. And I'm like, no, you have to accept the responsibility for your choices. You might have been handed a raw deal, but you still make the choices yourself.
Right.
And it's like, you can't look at him and what he does throughout this film lightly because he lost somebody.
Right.
Everybody loses somebody. We don't all go out and murder everybody.
I
Like,
just
it's
never saw him as a serious threat
No,
either. He was too good. You know what he reminded me of? And not just because he was all white. I know people compared him to that in memes, but he reminded me of Ralph Fiennes as Voldemort. Just because the over the top, like
the teeth and everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
I can touch you now. That's like, but yes, that's what he did in Harry Potter. It was terrible. And then it reminded me of that in the scene with the kids when he kills the thing.
Yeah.
I was like, it's just this over the like, see how evil and scary I am?
Yeah.
No, you're weird.
And then it cuts to another scene.
Yes.
Instead of like really trying to scare you
Yeah.
and make you
Well,
fear
because
for
we
these kids'
already
lives,
knew.
it just cuts
we
to another
already
scene.
knew in that scene too the kids weren't in danger. He was literally using
He
them
straight
to
up told
lure
them, it's like, you're just bait.
Thor.
It's like, okay.
I'm like, okay, so we know there's no real threat here. Like, even if he had killed one of the kids, we would have thought, oh wow, this dude's evil.
just
Yeah, he
I'm your
is it.
son.
Yeah.
That
you
was
know?
the thing. You could tell that it was like he was tiptoeing around this idea of, but we don't want you to think Gore the Butcher is evil. We can't have you thinking that, because if he does something too evil, he's not redeeming anymore, even though he has this forgiving arc at the end. And I'm like, but that's the problem. The problem is you don't give me a chance to really hate the bad guy, and that's a bad guy.
They did an excellent job with Thanos. It's like the making you understand his motivation, and whether you agreed with it or not, like, you still thought this man's evil.
Yeah.
But they still gave you enough, like, to have like
Absolutely.
that
He
sympathy
thought-
to understand. It's like
he thought what he was doing was right.
Yes.
Even though it wasn't.
And you
That's
could-
why I compare him rightfully
To Hitler.
more to Hitler
Yeah.
than Gore the God Butcher.
But that made but that's how you do a good villain. Like, Thanos was believable. It's like, okay, he's kind of dumb. I mean, like, that's not the best solution to the problem, but it's within his mind. He thinks it is. So
Alrighty, I think we have beat the
I just I
this
don't
over
know
the
where
head
they're
quite a
going.
bit.
We're gonna see Comic-Con, and they're gonna. I'm gonna call
Sadly,
it now. I
that's-
think he's gonna announce Secret Wars based on the little Easter eggs I've seen. But
You don't think a Kang the Conqueror?
No, Kang the Conqueror is still coming, but I think that's still building towards Secret because of the multiverse and the incursions and some of the stuff with the gods. Basically, it's going to be like this massive war between which multiverses get to survive or not, which is a good comic book storyline. But the way they've handled things so far, I'm like,
Well, they have to do that.
I've super oversimplified the plot but I mean, just saying, like,
But it makes sense because they almost have to do that because they have to be like, oh, well, we've got to at least settle on one storyline and keep that going, and then not have this possibility of there always being a different
if they're not
tale.
going to, like, in a unified manner build towards it, it's like you just get this hodgepodge of whatever, and then it pops up, and I'm like, it's not satisfying that way. What
True.
made the Infinity Saga great was that, yes, it's had its misses, but all of the
See,
best
and
films
again,
always built towards it.
And this will be my last point.
Yeah,
I think so much of what made the Infinity Saga good was that they had to prove themselves continually over and over, that they could build this bigger universe of cohesive, connected movies. and they had the A-listers sign on. I mean, that's my other problem is I'm fine. I understand you got to sunset the A-listers. They can't always be.
Well, I also understand you have to build towards something too, but right now it doesn't feel like you are.
But my problem is that even though they've sunset some of the major A-listers, the ones that are still present, plus the new ones that are supposed to be taking the helm, I have no connection to them whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
There is no Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans for me to connect with.
You had
I
Thor,
told
but
you
then they made him a joke.
right before you came in here to record the review. I said, I don't see so far in 6 movies one instance of a scene like Iron Man versus Captain America at the Sokovia Accords.
Yeah.
Something that serious when something is on the
It's
line.
not even action. It's them sitting at a table arguing. Yeah.
There is nothing like that of detail or of the stakes at hand, what's really what's on the table here. Nothing like that. And I'm sorry, but out of 6 movies, if you can't give me that, honestly, the one that closely even comes close to that is probably Black Widow, and it's a prequel.
Shang-Chi was fine. I think it took moments to slow down, but it was an origin story. It doesn't build towards anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It does a good job of introduction, but as far as having the severity level, I mean, the only thing I can compare it to is the opening to Black Widow when she's having to escape.
Actually, yes, that was. Yeah. I love the way that opened, but again, I felt a little too late. But we'll see. We'll see where they build towards, because right now I agree. Like there's nothing. There's little threads here and there, but they.
Well, let's talk about a little bit in headlines, because it does involve Thor, but we're going to talk about a boom and bust in Hollywood. Is it coming? So here's the question. So obviously we've had a string of just huge successes in the box office. And the question at this point is this boom going to continue, or is a bust inevitable?
Everybody's like, is the box office back to normal after COVID, or is this just a fluke? And I'm just like, I'm tired of this question so much. It's like people, I think, have proven if you give them something they want to see, they'll go to the theater.
Right.
True.
I mean, I know there's concerns because China's still closed down and nobody's getting a piece of that pie, really. But right now, movies are still breaking $1 billion without China. No, they're not hitting that $2 billion mark.
Well, we even kind of talked about this because the last
Spider-Man came close without China, though.
True,
it was $1.9 billion.
It surpassed Avatar here in the States.
Yeah,
but here's the funny thing: you bring that up, and it's funny. We're just talking about Thor, but all of these Phase 4 movies,
none of Marvel's movies have released in China.
Have released in China. And is that concerning?
Most of them were because of the LGBTQ content. Spider-Man was because of the Statue of Liberty. They didn't want that in there. And it's like,
heaven forbid. They actually have liberty represented.
Yeah. China's like, that's just too much of that. They were like, well, we're not cutting. Like,
you have to play the woke card.
Yeah. I mean, they put Captain America's shield on it. So
I know.
It's like it's not really the Statue of Liberty anymore.
Yeah,
I know.
Thankfully.
I was glad. Yeah,
I did, but that was the thing. I did actually appreciate, because if you watch the movie, there's like a few like news stuff like throughout where people are complaining about the shield being on there. Like, this looks stupid, and then it falls off at the end. So it's like, I have a feeling they always intended to get rid of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's not part of what we were talking about.
Well, no. I just think it's interesting because the reason this. I think everybody, it's like now you have these naysayers who are like, okay, now we're in the post-COVID box office.
Yeah.
We're getting back to normal with each major release of having continual audience membership show up. Mm-hmm. However, even without these tentpole films, that's the bigger question.
Yes.
Is once it finally wanes and we are out of the summer blockbuster season, are we going to go into a pretty dismal period
I have seen,
at the box office to where it's just not successful?
I think it was actually this article I was reading that you sent us where they had said, well, what comes after Thor? Because that's like the last big blockbuster. They're like,
Bullet Train, I think, will be I think it'll be a secret hit like John Wick. I think it's going to pull a John Wick.
I was looking at some, and I'm like, they may not hit $1 billion like Marvel or Top Gun, but I do think there are going to be some small successes coming out. Because
what did you say? Black Panther comes out this year?
In November.
In November, yeah.
But I mean, if you're looking at in between that
time, but they're looking for
Salem's Lot. It just came out that it's pushed back to spring of 23.
I'm not interested anymore, Stevie. The same with Marvel. It's like at this point, like they just keep running everything into the ground.
But I
love Salem's Lot, the book. I mean, if they pull it off, I would be impressed. But I'm just not holding my breath.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it is funny because even after the blockbuster season subsides, I think the bigger question more so is, I mean, we just talked about it last week about how the box office in the U.S. has and yeah, you could say that China was locked down, but the box office in the U.S. has surpassed, even on point of where it's not anywhere near where 2019 was before the pandemic, but way better than 2020 when everything was shut down, and even 2021 where it was still dismal because you had movie studios like Warner Brothers putting everything on HBO Max and most people trying to do streaming. But even Disney's reverted back to just a theatrical release of every major film before it ends up releasing on Disney Plus.
Are we going to see a smaller box office after Thor? I think so, because there aren't a lot of blockbusters coming out after Thor until Black Panther. But I don't think it's going to be a complete going back to COVID. Like you said, I think Bullet Train will be a success. Nope, still coming out. That'll be a success. Is it going to be $1 billion? No, it's not that type of movie.
But,
not
every movie that released the same year Endgame did made $1 billion.
Exactly.
So it's just I think it's going to return back to what we consider normal, which is
it already has.
There's huge blockbusters,
I think it already
and
has.
then there's other, there's a
Beast. I think will
didn't
do
make $1 billion
okay because of Idris Elba.
What is
Beast?
Yeah, we saw the trailer for that.
It actually looks pretty good.
It don't look bad, and and Idris Elba still has a big pull. It's we have these movies. They're not going to be $1 billion movies, but they'll do fine.
Right. You have to look at where we're at already with the box office, and if it's not only surpassed last year, but it's on record to becoming one of the greatest comebacks in cinema history with regard to where it was a year ago. I think you have to look at that as already not only a positive, but as it's already pleased audiences, and it's already proven itself to be pre-pandemic.
There's nothing
success.
coming out after. Yeah, there may not be a whole lot like the rest of this month or August, but they're re-releasing Avatar in September. I'm sure it'll make money. And then if it
releases in China.
Yeah. Then you'll have Black Panther 2 in November and Avatar 2 in December. So those movies are going to make money. I think that it's kind of funny how we have this panic of, well, the box office, how are we going to save it? It's it's okay.
It's saving itself. Just by being open, it's saving itself.
Just keep making movies people want to see. But that's the real problem, is if there's a problem at the box office, it's not because people don't want to go to the movies, because Top Gun proved that people want to go to the movies.
Top Gun, Jurassic World, for all of its flaws. Thor.
It's in, I think, third. Jurassic
Multiverse
World
of Madness.
No. Top Gun's 1, I think Jurassic World's 2, and Multiverse is 3rd. And
hell,
at the
even
box
Elvis,
office of this year so far.
Even Elvis, a kind of unsung, because of the content matter, and of course even Baz Luhrmann has some fans out there that have a draw. It's you have to think in terms of these movies already being successes for just simply the subject matter alone. And I agree. It's to think that literally, I feel like we get this opposite message every time the pendulum swings. It's everything's going great in the box office. It's but will it continue? Will a bust come? Well, I'm sure there's going to be some downtime. But it's and then we have these huge successes and these flops, back in December with freaking, I love breaking it up, West Side Story. And
Lightyear.
Lightyear. Well, people are worried about the pandemic, and there's a new strain. And it's
maybe look at the quality of your movies.
Quit making up excuses, and look at what people want to see.
Minions came out, the weekend after?
2 weekends.
2 weekends after Lightyear, and it shattered, it says 129 million. Shattering records, and I'm what happened in 2 weeks?
Certified
Everybody's
Lightyear
idea of COVID changed?
No.
They heard about Lightyear and didn't take their kids to see it.
Lightyear just now cleared 200 million globally. That's pathetic.
Yeah, that's awful
pathetic
for a Pixar movie.
That's pathetic.
Well, Minions, I think, did 140 something million in its first weekend. I may be taking that out of
120. That's what he just said.
129 million.
The 129 opening weekend, and Lightyear's done 200 globally
since 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's pathetic.
That's god awful.
It's not that
so
people
there is
don't
booms and busts.
It's not that people don't want to go to the movies. It's just that they don't want to see the crap you're shoveling. They want to they want to be entertained. They want to go in and have something that moves them on. Like I said, you have to make something that reaches everyone on a human level, not just a singular mindset or a topical moment. Because what makes movies like Forrest Gump great, or Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List, Return of the King, is that they reach everybody because they speak to everyone on a human level, not just a specific topical mindset or group of people.
Yeah, I think honestly what hurt Lightyear more than anything, it was not only the fact that there were countless articles written before the movie ever released about some of the subject matter that was going to be in the film, and then you had Disney's ultra woke people showing their Zoom meeting, and that released, and people were able to see what the real intentions are in that company, and that, I think, that hurt Lightyear before it was ever released. Those two things, because people knew what they were going to show. They knew what
they knew it was intentional.
If you didn't know that was in there before you went to see the movie, you would have probably went and saw it thinking,
and you might have even like been disappointed but shrug it off.
Yes.
But the fact that you knew their intention wasn't pure, it was, we're forcefully going to make sure that this is in there because we know that we need to put this in something as popular
their own
as
vanity,
Lightyear.
their own vanity, and patting themselves on the back by saying out loud, no, we're going to force feed you this until you love it.
Exactly
that
what
is
it
why
is.
People didn't go see it.
Like you said with like Christian films like God's Not Dead, and I'll bring up one I know for a fact, it's a purely conservative pushed film, An American Carol or whatever, with Kelsey Grammer, Jon Voight. It has some moments I thought were humorous, but overall it's not a good movie, and that's because its only point of existing is to spread a extremely conservative message. And any movie like that fails because you're not, like you said, you're not focusing on the substance or quality. You're focusing on making sure you can browbeat people with your message.
Yeah, but when you make a movie
work.
like Father Stew that pushes Christian values and beliefs, but does it in a realistic and relative way,
even
it
like
ends
Brandon
up being
said,
a success.
Martin Scorsese's Silence, was that
Silence?
It? Yeah,
Silence.
that's a secular movie, but it still has great messages.
You know, it's funny that you brought up Silence and Martin Scorsese because I wanted to talk a little bit about something that our good pal Mr. Kevin Smith brought up.
Yeah, sometimes I love Kevin Smith, and he's all over the place.
Well,
but I'll see. We'll hear about what he said.
Let's talk about it because we were talking about Thor and of course the review of Thor. And,
I do think the trailer for Clerks 3 looks great.
I have not seen it yet,
but
I know it just dropped this past week, and the movie's done, so it's coming out in September.
Yeah.
So that's something we have to look forward to, and who knows, that may be a little indie hit. If it breaks 100 million, it's going to be fine.
I'm pretty sure he produced it all on his own, like paid for it. So it's not like, I'm sure it's. But I mean, all of Clerks are very minuscule. So.
But I wanted to talk about Kevin Smith bringing up Scorsese's Marvel comments in light of Thor releasing this past week, and I'm actually going to bring this over to our screen over here.
I was going to say, would you like me to read this wonderful gray block?
If you don't mind, and then I'll try to zoom in on it so that I can show our peeps here.
Oh, look at that, with 100% real fruit juices.
Oh, naked.
Nice.
They are not a sponsor.
Oh,
just have to throw that out there.
As soon as I
you put it in reader mode, and it gets rid of all the apps or ads.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. I could do that, can't I?
Gosh, get your tech brain
there
going.
It is.
There it is.
Get your Apple together.
That's
there we go.
Here we go. Are you ready?
Go ahead and read it.
Okay, if you go follow along with the map. No. Oftentimes, those directors, it seems, have been in situations where doing junkets or an interview situation, and it's a question that gets thrown in there, and it's not like them going, get me the New York Times, I want to tell somebody how I feel about comic book movies. It's also an adjacent to a zillion other questions that are being asked. But in our culture, in our very tribal culture, somebody like Martin Scorsese referring to comic book movies as amusement parks and theme park rides gets a bunch of people who have made comic book movies their lives for the last 10 years very unhappy. You're asking a guy who made Goodfellas what he thinks about Spider-Man. What do you think you're going to get? He's a very serious filmmaker, and he's a man who's of a certain age and stuck in his ways. You should not be surprised that's his response. For every old filmmaker who's like, I don't get it, there's a bunch of young filmmakers who are like, I get it and I want to do it. We don't have to ostracize the people that maybe don't get or aren't into the same movies we are. Huh, you mean people can have varying opinions and it's okay?
I just want to show, there he is. Look at that guy.
No, I agree though. It's like people like different things, people hate different things, and we live in a society now where if you don't agree and like everything I like, then you're evil and I don't want to have nothing to do with you.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I do somewhat agree, but I kind of think of it as a cop-out.
A little bit.
And
he didn't want to say anything bad, but I mean...
Well, and here's the thing. I see why he's taken this route. I understand ultimately that he's not going to badmouth Martin Scorsese because, again, you're talking about a huge figure in cinema and all that he has done. But I also think, too, that it's like you have to kind of still agree or disagree with what he said about Marvel movies. And I think... this is part of why we came to the defense of Marvel before.
At the time. I agree with 100%.
No, that's what I'm bringing up. We came to their defense because they were proving him and others of the same ilk wrong with adding substance to what they thought were just popcorn flicks for blockbuster season.
Yeah.
But in that time since, the Infinity Saga has sunset, and now we have Phase 4. And after the last several films, I hate to say that now I would be in a position of saying, no, you have to call a spade, and I have to come down on the side of Martin Scorsese and the route that Marvel has taken.
Yeah.
And it's extremely disappointing, but I have to disagree with Kevin Smith's take here. It's like, no, Scorsese has a kind of elevated sense of how cinema is done, not just because, he's created great cinema, but he's a master and a study of cinema.
Oh, yeah. But at the same time, I agree with him now in regards to, like, Thor, Love, and Thunder. I didn't agree with him then. So it is a thing based on the movie itself, too. And I do agree with Kevin Smith in the sense that Martin Scorsese doesn't seem to differentiate between like Endgame or Thor: Love and Thunder. He just thinks all of Marvel is a theme park. And to that extent, I kind of disagree.
Yeah.
But yeah, if all Marvel's going to give us is stuff like Love and Thunder, I'm like, yeah, at this point, I'm getting tired of being on the roller coaster because it was fun for a while, but
now I want to puke.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very good. Yeah.
Sean, do you have anything to add to those comments?
I agree. I kind of feel like you've got this guy like Scorsese who, yes, he's made some great films, but a filmmaker should know that there's people that don't like his films. Yeah. So I'm like, you've got to know as a filmmaker, especially as one that's seasoned as Scorsese, that you shouldn't be really giving those kind of opinions or downplaying someone else's filmmaking. Let the films decide that for themselves. If you make a crap movie like we just saw, it decides for itself. If you make two films that go together like Infinity War and Endgame that leave grown men bawling in a theater because their favorite hero sacrificed themselves, or because, the father-son relationship between Iron Man and Spider-Man, like that gets me more so in some cases than some of the relationships that you see in a Goodfellas and a The Departed and things like that. Like The Departed just made me want to freaking punch the screen when Leonardo DiCaprio dies. And I'm just like, that's
Spoiler
insane.
alert.
Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it by now,
It's
you're
an old
stupid.
movie.
It's true. There's something wrong with you.
It's like Vader's Luke's father.
Yeah. Oh, man, you gave that away.
Why'd you say that?
Dang it.
My gosh.
But yeah, I just don't. I feel like filmmakers shouldn't really critique. It's kind of like an artist critiquing someone else's art. I don't feel you're of the same.
But here's the thing.
It's
I
like
think
let the
that's what
art do that for itself.
I think that's what Kevin Smith is saying, though. He's giving credit
But
to
no,
saying
he's playing it too close because he wants to be. You're talking about a guy who wants so badly to direct a comic book movie, and
True.
they haven't given him the
No,
chance.
what I'm saying though is he's
not
coming
going to badmouth them.
He's coming to Scorsese's defense, saying, "Look, Scorsese gave his honest opinion in a press junket with a bunch of other." Reviewers or
Asking, throwing all kinds of questions at
know.
it. Yeah,
a bunch of reporters coming in and asking questions, and he's just simply saying, look, he threw out this one opinion, and everybody took it as, this is what Scorsese thinks about all superhero films.
I know, but
and
again,
I do agree with Smith in that take. I think what Scorsese said is his subjective opinion that then got amplified, and people took it out of they didn't take it out of context. They just put too much emphasis on it, which I think the funny thing about that is I'm like, well, now you're proving Scorsese right, because you're now saying that Scorsese has such an impact on film that his opinion actually matters. Because if his opinion didn't matter, people wouldn't give a damn.
I know, but I feel like he does a disservice to Scorsese by calling him an old guy set in his ways. I'm like, you're pitting the young against the old. Yeah. I'm a younger guy than Scorsese, but I still know Goodfellas is a better movie than anything Marvel's put out.
But I don't think Kevin Smith would knock that either, because he's a Scorsese fan as well. But absolutely, he does definitely.
I feel
want
like
to do
his
something.
wording there is wrong.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
He again, he's sugarcoating it.
Yeah.
He's trying to come off as, don't.
I think he's
don't
trying
put
to
the
appease
blame
both
on-
sides.
Yes.
It's like he respects Scorsese, but at the same time, like you said, he's a massive comic book fan. He would love to do one of those.
Yeah.
Movies. Honestly, I say give him a whack at it. It can't be any worse than Love and Thunder.
Well, and again, because he's given his own opinions on what he thinks is coming, and he's obviously just as much a fan of Marvel as it is now and what it will become. He obviously is looking forward to what they're going to do. But as, again, you see what happens when you try to appease both sides. It's like, okay, you're kind of talking out of your butt, and you got to come down on one
I'm
side.
still
or the
ready
other.
for Clerks 3. It's okay.
True, but in sad news, James Caan died.
Yes, and that
Yeah.
actually did it.
We got to end on a sad note.
I was cutting my grass and I had my headphone in listening to some podcast when actually my sister, because I sent that to you all, my sister sent it to me, my mom and dad, and I'm cutting the grass and I hear the text come through because Siri will read it to you, and she reads the headline like James, and I immediately just stopped cutting my grass so I can start texting people because I've always liked James Caan, so I was just like, what the crap? No, it's like, that's another one.
Yeah.
Like, it's just pissing me off that we get these greats are dying and we're left with Amy Schumer.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
That's such a good way to put it.
It sucks for me because hopefully in a few days when I start working from home, it'll be better. But it's like I get all of these headlines that come through on a news feed on my computer at work, and I can't share them with anybody. So it's like I see some of these things, and I'm just like, oh my god, if somebody turns their head, I'll get my phone out and text it because we're not allowed to have our phones out.
Yeah.
And it's just like, so some of the things like I knew that happened before.
No, then you get a
but then it's
notification
like-
on your watch, and then you're like, damn it, I already knew that. I wanted to share that with you all.
I wanted to share it.
Yeah, but
I
no,
was mad.
it sucks because again, you've got this guy
Alec
who's
Baldwin.
a seasoned. Yeah, oh my
Say
god.
we're left with the turds.
Yeah, I know. And
I wish James Caan would have shot him.
it's funny because I mean, so many serious movies, great roles that he's played, and then you have Elf.
Yeah,
and he
well,
does,
that's like-
and he does a great
he
job
does.
in Elf.
Fantastic.
It's like he could do. He was a master. He could do it all.
Yep. And I would be, it would behoove me to not mention that he was obviously a strong conservative in Hollywood. Of course, when you're of the old ilk,
And it's only when you
by with a
die.
pass.
It's only when you die that Hollywood
Well, of course.
praises you as
Well,
a
again,
as a
you
know,
look at him,
not as a
you
conservative,
look at
but
Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
They'll look at him
Yeah.
as doddering old men that
Yeah.
had their great heyday.
It's like, look, they
Yeah.
they can't help their old ignorant men. Like Kevin Smith with Martin Scorsese. They're just
Right.
old and ignorant. No.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm just like, no. He obviously was a strong-willed conservative, and now John Voight is a little bit off the deep.
John Voight's a little crazy. Like
He has to make up for his bat crap crazy daughter.
Yeah.
So
Well, part of what I think she's bat crap crazy is because of him. So
Well,
I'll
maybe.
always put that there. But no, very sad news of another great of Hollywood passing. James Caan passed at 82. Very sad news. To try and lighten the mood up a little bit, we shall move on to our final segment, our Vices segment. Let's do it. Vices. Y'all ready to talk some vices?
I guess.
We're going a different route with vices this week.
Yeah.
what is it?
We're talking about hygiene.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How important is your hygiene to you?
At first,
I was going to make this very much a very specific about how often do you take a shower, because I wanted to think about you all in a shower.
Yeah.
But
Hygiene and it's funny when I get it because when I read it, I was like, is that really? But then I was thinking about other people. And I was like, no, definitely, like that can't be advice.
He's like, I'm thinking about other people that are just.
Well, I'm just
I
dirty.
don't bathe.
Yeah, I just
I'm
I
Matthew
don't
McConaughey.
but
I don't put on deodorant.
Yeah.
well, no, I've worked with and known people who needed to bathe a lot more than they did.
True. We've all.
And I just question it because it's like how
I'm gonna say something in
how?
a minute that's gonna offend somebody, but just go ahead.
Well,
It's not gonna offend one of you.
Oh, good, that's fine.
I was like, bring it.
Bring it, yeah. No, because for me, it's obviously important. I do bathe regularly. Like when I worked in a restaurant business, I bathed every time as soon as I came home because and that's what I didn't understand. There are people that worked there that smelled, and I'm like, I don't know how you cannot go home and not feel grimy working in a greasy kitchen all day and want to take a shower. Like, I'm sorry,
Dude,
like
freaking just walking in the heat the last few weeks.
Yes.
I'm just like, I walk inside and I'm sweaty and I'm like, I just feel it in like every crevice.
Yeah.
It's just gross.
I'm not going to say I take a shower, 365 days a year. Like I'm sure, yes, I've skipped days, but I definitely bathe. At least I never go more than like a day without bathing because I feel gross.
Yeah.
And especially like if I'm camping or at the lake or something.
That's the only time I skip.
If I'm out in the wilderness, it's like no, I'm not worried about bathing. But here's the thing: when I came home from the lake this weekend, and granted, I bathed down there too, but even still. It was late. I was really tired. I came here, did the review. I didn't really get home till midnight. And I wanted to go to bed, but I was like, I'm not getting in my bed until I take a shower.
Yes.
Because even though like I can bathe down there, it's still not the same. It's like I drug whatever back with me, just the dirt and grime, and I'm like, I'm
dude, you like
taking a shower.
You feel like I sleep better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I feel nasty and I take a shower, I can lay down and cool off, and then as soon as I'm dry, it's like, dude, I
Maybe
I've never felt better.
maybe I'm a complete weirdo, but I swear, like I could just feel like my pores are clogged. Like I can't sleep. Like my skin can't breathe. I got to shower.
Yes.
Like I'm just like I don't know.
All right, Sean, I want you to bring it up. What were you
so I was
bring
just going
up?
to say two things. One about my own personal hygiene. I definitely use a lot of water in the house because I shower after everything. So some things I won't talk about on the show, but if I cook on the griddle outside, all that grease popping on me and everything. As soon as we're done eating and people have left, if we're having people over, I'm in the shower. As soon as I get home tonight after smoking a cigar outside and all that stuff, I'll take a shower before I go lay down in bed because I don't want to lay and get cigar all over my pillow. I mean, it's just seeped into everything. I like it, but the wife doesn't like it.
I was going to ask, is that more of a wife?
It is,
preference?
but I also, when I lay there all night and smell cigar, I just want to lay awake and sniff myself. So it's like, for me to get some sleep, I need to take a bath.
I normally want to do that anyway.
So as far as hygiene goes, I will say that it wasn't until COVID hit that I really had to like wash my hands. I'm not a guy it's kind of like, I know my dick's clean. I don't need to wash my hands. So I would pee and not wash my hands. COVID broke me of that and got me in the habit of washing my hands more often. But when I take a shower, this is a vice because I will go through a bar of soap quick. I have to I sweat, and I sweat in places that most people sweat.
If you don't wash down there, there's something wrong with you. Yeah.
Downstairs.
Heck yes.
So especially in the back.
Yeah.
So there's hair.
Yeah,
so,
I wash my ass too.
Yes. So I will
Get all up in that
that
crack.
bar of soap just it withers away in my butt crack. Like I
Now,
go in there.
If I lived with others that were also going to use the bar of soap,
they don't use the bar of soap.
Okay, yeah, I wouldn't do that.
That's your bar of soap.
I get that bar of soap up in there.
But do
Yes.
you like put it in between your cheeks and like squeeze it?
Well, yeah.
What do you mean squeeze it?
First of all,
I
I
don't
don't.
squeeze a bar of soap.
Yes, you can with your
I
butt
take the
cheeks.
bar of soap and I
It's just gonna
rub
pop
it
right out of there.
between
No.
the- Yeah.
You can squeeze
No,
it.
I rub it
How
in
far
there.
are you shoving it up your anus that it stays in place?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I got a big bar of soap.
First
it
of all,
don't stay in there.
I
It just pops out.
don't use a bar of soap. I just use
Dr.
liquid Dr.
Bronner's,
Bronner's.
that's
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I
yeah.
do take. I usually have a wash
Get
rag
some
where I
on your
actually
hand
have
or whatever.
I have a loofah on a stick.
Oh, you stick the loofah in
Yeah,
your butt?
yeah.
Okay.
That's
Right,
worse
yeah.
than a stick of freaking
No, it's
bar
not,
of soap.
man.
Yeah.
It scrubs in there real good.
Yeah,
What?
but then you got leftover.
No, you
on
got to
your
wash it
loofah.
out.
Dingleberries.
Dr. Bronner's
Yeah.
cleans everything. You just wash it out.
That's true.
You just wash.
The Dr. Bronner's is nice,
That
but
loofah,
I
don't
have it
put
in my
that
hand
loofah on
and
my
go
face.
in there.
It's like specifically reserved for my butt and my crotch.
I will do that.
I'm saying it's a crotch
wash-
loofah.
Yeah.
It's a
That's the
whatever we'll
area
call
of
it.
my body that gets the cleanest.
I say I use my
Yeah.
washcloth for everything else, but for that I use the
To not
places I can't
sound,
reach.
I don't want to sound gay, but you could eat out of my butt.
Maybe I'll take you up
It's
on
clean.
that one day.
It's clean.
Yeah.
I mean, most people would ask you to bleach it.
I
before.
scrub.
No,
like,
don't do that.
And I have one of the nozzles that like come off. Like I'll get that stuff like not too hot, but I get it really hot and like spray everything. It's like, and I don't know. You just gotta.
You're gonna scald it.
No, not
there's
that
anything
hot.
See,
in there,
I
you're gonna
wish
burn it.
I had a
burning
removable
it.
head. I wish I did, but honestly,
I
what
blast the heck out of that. Just
God.
it's like it feels
Okay,
good.
Wait, I got one other
You got to soap
thing.
it up and spray it down, man.
One other thing to touch on
I'm a
real
big guy. I
quick.
sweat. I don't want to stink.
This is about
Good for
somebody
you.
that did not have good hygiene. Okay?
Okay.
So growing up, I had a best friend, and he was American, but his dad and brothers, they were Palestinian. Okay. Apparently in that country, they don't shower often or bathe often. And when they do, they reuse the water. So it was the worst hygiene.
Wait.
ever.
Like one takes a shower or a bath,
and then they
the next
reuse
one
the water. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, gross.
And basically, when I would go over to his house in the morning,
I think
in the morning they would get up.
water's
I
Spare
know.
cars
I,
over there.
Yeah,
I know.
So they would get up and they would fill the sink bowl up with water, and everybody in the house, with the exception of his mom and his sister, which was like four brothers and the dad.
well,
they
like,
would
would
they
the,
would
would
they
the
would
women share their own?
I never
water?
saw them in the bathroom.
they didn't
but
deserve to bathe.
That's probably true. They'd be stoned for bathing.
That's why they wore a
No,
burqa.
that's why I said this is going to offend somebody.
Hair was
But
nappy.
they would stick their face in the water, blow their nostrils out in the water, and then the next guy would go and do the same thing.
True.
And so in that other person's snot water, they would wash their face and wet their hair. They would never use shampoo or soap.
Wow. Just
now-
rinse it.
Yeah, just rinse it with the snot water the last guy used. And they would do that and then
Well-
drain the sink. Now, my friend would take a shower, but when he took a shower, he would always come out smelling just as bad as he did when he went in. And
Probably worse.
I asked him one time, I was like, did you like use soap or whatever? Because there wasn't any in there. And
He used boogers.
He used shampoo for the hair, but he did not wash his
He
body.
just rinsed
He
himself
just
with
rinsed
water.
off. And it literally he did at times he smelled bad. Now, after he started dating and trying to meet girls and stuff, he
realized
did
real
something.
quick
Yeah, I don't know
that
if
it
it was
was-
Axe body spray or what he was doing, but he a lot of cologne. He smelled better, but I still believe that he didn't completely bathe. And I'm just like, so you take somebody like me that bathes after everything,
Yes.
and then the polar opposite of somebody that's just no.
The huge difference.
Huge difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was.
And I think it's just a cultural thing. I'm
It
not.
is.
I'm not making fun of it. I'm just saying it's the truth. It really
I
happened.
mean, I remember
but-
back when. I mean, and it's funny because I think as a kid you get more dirty getting into crap.
Yeah.
But there were definitely times where it was like either my brother or my dad would take a bath and they'd be like, "Hey, Brandon, run up there and get a bath. Just use the same water." And it would be like but I was like 6 or 7. You know, it was like it wasn't like I was a teenager. There were times where I'll be honest. As a kid, I was dirty, and I didn't want to take a bath.
Yeah.
I was one of those that didn't want
Kids
to.
don't want to bathe.
Yeah.
And I freaking,
My
I
sons
think
don't wanna bathe.
the longest I ever went, and it was like 5 days.
Oh, wow.
It was bad.
Yeah.
God.
And my parents
There's some people that
even
think that's
like,
normal. That Matthew McConaughey like bathes like once a week. Some people think that's like okay. You
oh,
should
he
only
doesn't wear
bathe. You know?
deodorant.
Yeah.
He likes his natural body. His
But I'm just saying
BO.
that I've met people like not celebrities, but I've met people who's like you're not supposed
But
to
the-
bathe. Right? Like that's not good for your body. You watch the
Oh.
natural oils and the natural.
If you wash with
Yeah.
natural oils like Dr. B's, it's all natural.
Yeah.
It's all
you're not
one
supposed
God
to
faith,
wash away all
okay?
that natural stuff on your body. It's like
Well, your
dirt
skin dries
and-
out if you use.
If you go
soap too much.
overboard,
Yeah,
I get that, but at the same time, it's like okay, but
Hey,
you also
you can
don't.
also I don't do this. You can also moisturize. You can use lotion if
That's
it
true.
dries out. But I will say once I hit the teenage years
Yeah,
in
that
middle
changed.
school, oh, it absolutely
Yeah,
changed.
I
You
agree.
did not
Well, you don't
want
want
to
some
be
girl you like to think you smell like
Exactly.
garbage.
That's right.
Well, here's the thing.
If some
How
girl
many?
was sniffing
Sound
my
like a
butt
horse's
crack,
stall.
it needed to smell good.
See, they went from sniffing it thinking no way to I got to eat out of that asshole.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, you said
It's a good
I
thing
said-
we're on late.
I didn't mean
This is
out
the
of my
after-hour
butthole.
segment for-
Well, he's
said-
talking about shoving soap
yeah.
bars of soap
Yeah.
up there.
Hey,
so
I didn't say I would shove it in my hole. I said I could squeeze it with my cheeks. That's all I said.
and hold it in there.
Yes.
with it like wet and slippery.
My butt muscles are
You
strong.
got some glutes, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's
I'm
how I
telling
work
you.
them out. That's beach body, baby. Beach body work those butt muscles.
It's like a steel trap. It's like somebody tries to put their hand in there. You're like, no.
You call it the soap clam.
The soap clam. The soap clam?
Yeah.
Or clamp?
clam.
I thought you
Clamp
said
is
No,
clam.
better.
no, clam. I like clam.
Ugh.
It's like you try to squeeze
I don't
that
like
soap
that.
to get a pearl
Oh
out
yeah,
of it.
no.
See, they may be able
Well,
to they
I
may
don't
eat
know.
out of yours, but they're going pearl diving in mine.
This conversation,
Soap clam.
this conversation just went way off the rails.
Yeah, it did.
No, but the thing is
God.
yeah, you didn't want to be the one kid in class that smelled.
No.
And there were actually
No,
and,
Dale Tyndall, that kid.
I was gonna say everybody has
calling
it.
people out, name drop them. It's like, I hope you bathe now because
he's
I'm
probably
putting you on
dead.
blast.
He's probably dead now. He's not watching this. He probably died somewhere.
Because he didn't bathe.
So
Somebody's like,
poisoning.
you think I'm killing you.
He was that kid that just you knew he's gonna be in a ditch
No,
one day.
I think of Christmas Story. And he's like, it was soap poisoning. But no, the thing is everybody had that one or two kids
I
in
knew
their
a few
class
throughout.
And the thing is in middle school they started telling people. They said, "Now look, your body's changing."
They tried to teach you about hygiene, wear
and they
deodorant.
were trying to tell you to wear deodorant,
Yeah.
and they had freaking sticks of deodorant downstairs, the little travel size, that if you forgot to wear it, you could go down to the office and you could say, "Hey, I didn't have any, or I need to put some on."
Right.
And they would give you this little travel size deodorant that you could put on, so you wouldn't be made fun of.
Pull aside and like
I
talk to you like,
hate it.
hey, you really should wear, like, you know. And
I never made fun of people, but there were definitely people that I knew, and I would agree that they were definitely smelled terrible. And there was one, I can't remember his name. There was one in high school. I rode a bus where we did exchanges. So, like, we had middle school and high school, and
Right.
you went to a depot and exchange. This one kid, I do remember his name. I'm not going to name drop him.
Brian
It's just-
Adams.
It's the name of a jeans brand. I'll just put it that way.
Okay.
Levi.
So, didn't name drop.
You are correct.
I know. I was just the only one I can think of that's a name. George Walmart. I think it's George Wrangler.
There ain't no kid named Wrangler unless he's from Texas.
Levi Silvertown.
But no, he smelled terrible.
Yeah.
And I felt he was a bigger kid.
Yeah, of course.
And it was definitely one of those instances where it was like,
Well, sometimes
Yeah.
you have to ask
I
when they're
was-
that young too. It's like, why are the parents like? What
Yes.
type of parents are not telling
I
you?
felt
Hey,
like it was an instance of, and even as a
my parents told me as I was
14-year-old
getting
kid.
older. Hey,
Yeah.
you're getting older.
My
you
dad
start,
was
yeah.
like, "Son, you stink."
Yes.
They let you know, like you
Yes.
need, and from that point
want them
on,
to back me
now you
up.
can't say that, or you're
Yeah.
a terrible parent.
But yeah, because when you start getting that age, and they're like,
It's my
"Hey,
body.
you need
It's
to
supposed to smell
My
that way.
parents were like, "You smell,
Natural.
you have body odor, you need to start wearing deodorant." Okay, and they taught, and then that's you learning, growing up.
It's like,
I mean,
son, you need to go wash your female penis. It's like you're affirming their gender, but at the same time,
You got
teaching
that
them to be
trans yeast,
clean.
man.
Yeah.
Dove for her.
Yes. Yeah, it's like, man, I even got you some tampon pearls, okay? Go shove that up somewhere.
Where the soap goes.
The pearls.
But no, look, I definitely started. It was in middle school, but no doubt by freaking high school, I was a shower a day.
Yeah,
without missing.
I shower every
only
day.
when we go on trips to like the lake are the only times that.
Yeah.
And honestly, even then, I feel somewhat okay.
Yeah,
because I at
'cause
least get
everybody
in the
else
lake
does too.
and we all smell. But at
Yeah.
least I'm showering in the lake.
Yeah.
I'm rinsing it off
Yeah.
with other water. It's not like I'm just.
It's usually like at least one out of those 3 or 4 days that I'll
Yes.
Oh
Take
yeah,
a shower.
I don't go the whole
Usually-
time without bathing.
No,
yeah.
well, and honestly, I usually, depending on how late we stay, it's usually on the last day.
yeah.
Like the last day before we go home, because we're going to Huddle House, we got to meet Ariel.
That's true.
she knows about proper hygiene.
I don't take a shower there very often because I'm scared of the spiders.
Oh, they're not in the tub though.
They have yes, a spider attacked me in
Oh,
the
man.
bathtub
Oh,
before
man.
in the
Ooh.
shower. So I
have to
just
talk about that
I
on
kind of I was
another
kind of
segment.
scared of the
Scared.
spiders.
Hygiene is very important. And here's
And
another
the
one.
spiders know that. They're just trying to get clean.
That's
Another one too is not only just bathing, but brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I cannot stand bad breath, and ever since I had braces, you all know this about me. Even when it comes to my love life, it's like if I cannot date a girl with messed up teeth. Oh, I just can't.
Crooked teeth don't bother me unless they're like crazy.
British.
Like if you have like it's like unless you have like if you have like one offset tooth, like that's not gonna bother me because like but I mean
Snaggletooth.
you know
Yeah,
Oh,
no, I would
yeah.
agree.
Yeah.
I would agree. It can't be so.
there's sometimes
can't-
where
you
it's like
can't
a,
look
almost a
like-
cute character type, like you know, like oh, it's kind of cute. But like if it's
Okay.
like you got teeth going
What
every which
what about
way,
the?
It can't be like vampire teeth.
Yeah, but what
Yeah.
about the girl that I was talking about earlier? That's in the Future Crimes movie. What's her name?
Leah
Crimes Review.
Sado?
Leah Sado.
What's wrong with her teeth?
What about the big gaps between all
Well,
of her
she
teeth?
does have a little bit of a gap.
A little bit,
it-
but they're
it's
not terrible.
It's not Michael Strahan gap.
yeah,
I can get by
deal
with
with a
that.
little gap. If you could fit like a whole $1 worth of quarters between it, you got a problem.
Yes, and then it's like, come on, you have enough money to fix that. That's just wrong.
Yeah,
and
Michael does. He has enough money to get
Anthony
that fixed.
Davis wants his unibrow to be like a feature.
Hey, that's
that's fine.
That's his character. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that.
But I
Let
still
him have the brow.
It's fine because he could shave it.
I think he pulls it off.
Your teeth, I'm like, that's a little. I know it costs more money than to shave your brow, but it's just such a glaring like the even more so than a snaggletooth or something though. If they're not clean, if you've got yellow teeth, I just can't take it. I just can't take it.
Yeah.
And the big one too are people who've had braces. This is terrible. I know. He's
so vain.
They've had braces, but when they get them pulled off, because you could tell they didn't brush when they had them.
So they
have the white,
yeah,
like from where the glue
it's like
was.
it's like suntan lines, but your teeth. Yeah,
and I've got that. I've got that on my. I mean, look at my wrist, my watch, where I wear my watch.
Like,
damn, terrible.
Okay, but that's
tan lines on your teeth.
That's different from When you got tan lines on your teeth, there's a problem.
That's a quote right there.
I mean, it sounds like one of those Yo Mama jokes, like from when we were teenagers.
Yeah, it does. Your mama's teeth so bad they got tan lines. Alrighty, guys. I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Hopefully, everybody else out there takes care of themselves and their hygiene, and hopefully, they're gonna bathe tonight.
Keep your butt crack clean.
They're not your mama jokes anymore. Now they're your birth giver jokes. Your birth giver is so ugly.
Yo, pregnant person.
Pregnant person.
That's so true. Alrighty, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the Red Moon Podcast. Thank you all so much for joining. And, of course, right there at the bottom of your all screen, you can see all of our social media. Like, share, subscribe. Hold on, I've got it on the wide shot. We're up there. Can you point up there? Point like down at the bottom of the screen, like from here.
I can only point this way.
You
down
can-
here?
There it is. Yeah.
What?
You're about to hit Sean in the head.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, he's doing that.
Here comes the dog.
Hi.
Like, share, subscribe. Red Moon
You
Book,
want to
Red
point
Moon
it out
Tweet,
to him, Edie? Look
Red
that
Moon
way. Look at the
Pics,
camera.
and search for Red
She's
Moon
gone.
Productions on YouTube. We'd love all the support you can give us.
Yeah.
And, of course, there's always that old-fashioned way. Don't forget about it. It still works just fine. That's email, rmpodcast@redmoonproductions.com. I don't know if we know what we're going to review next week. Because I haven't had a chance to look.
There's not a lot coming out when I was just looking. Marcel the Shell with the Shoes one's coming out. I want to see that.
What the hell is that? I don't know.
It's a family children's movie. A little. It was a YouTube.
Isn't that Paul's movie coming out?
What Paul?
The
Yes,
Samuel
that
L.
is.
Jackson.
Paul's of Fury.
That's coming out too. Yeah,
Paul's
yeah.
of Fury.
Yeah, I'll
They-
probably have to
two
go see
children's
that. My
movies.
wife is going to go see something about the crawdads crying or something
Oh,
like
where
that.
the crawdads.
Oh, that's
something like-
right.
yeah, that's coming out too. They're all smaller films.
That
but
Nicholas Sparks movie.
yes.
Is that what it is?
I
don't know. I'm just
I
calling
don't know.
it that.
It looks
It
like
is.
it. It's based on a book.
Yeah.
I don't think it's not
It's
Nicholas
not
Sparks.
Nicholas Sparks.
But yeah,
Some girl gets abused or something.
Oh man, that's terrible.
I don't
like-
know.
It's
Who wants to see that?
Here we
Where
are.
the crawdads sing.
Marcel the Shell with Shoes on. Yeah, where the
that's
crawdads sing,
where the
Paws of
crawdads
Fury,
sing.
and Miss Harris goes to
Crawdads
Paris.
don't sing. Like, I just don't get
So
it.
those are the,
I
they
think
don't
the
make
point.
noise.
I think that's the
One Up
point.
on Amazon. Don't know what that is. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff.
We'll figure it out and we'll tweet about it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Follow us on Twitter. Nobody follows us on there. We won't tweet about it. Don't follow us on
Okay.
there. We'll let you know by next week. Probably before the show.
Seriously, I think you all need to watch Crimes of the Future and tell me what you think about that movie.
It's weird because
we could review that.
we didn't do Minions, and I feel like that's a big movie, but
could
Paws
do
of
that.
Fury is going to be another big
I
children's
think
movie.
Paws of Fury is DreamWorks.
It's
Am I wrong?
DreamWorks.
Okay.
But here's the thing: I'd also be very
Sometimes
much
DreamWorks does
okay.
make they've been hit or miss, but when they hit it, they really do hit it.
I would be
so.
okay with having a week off from the theater and picking something. I just don't know what it would be.
Well, we'll figure it out
so
and we'll let
could do
everybody know.
What is
Yeah.
it called? Crimes of the Future?
yes.
Mad
Okay.
God.
Yeah, that was another one that I've heard is really screwed up.
You gotta. I mean,
I'm
I don't
gonna
know
watch
what.
it. I'm actually
I don't know
excited
what
about
is
that
going
one.
on.
Is that who's that Cronenberg?
No,
that's
Crimes of the Future is
Oh,
Cronenberg.
okay.
Mad God's the stop motion horror film.
Stupid.
It's got like a
movie
90.
I've
I don't
seen.
know. It's got
Wait,
a,
I have seen. Isn't that from the same guy who did the Star Wars models?
oh yeah, I think so.
I think he's the
It's
one
got
that
like a
created
95 on Rotten
because
Tomatoes.
it's taken him like years.
talking about
30
Mad
years.
God?
Yeah, 30 years. Mad God, 30 years.
Oh, that's yeah.
It's got a 95
crazy.
on Rotten Tomatoes though, so I don't know.
Filmmaking wise, great.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Weird effing movie.
Well, I
Weird,
think that was the point too,
bizarre.
though. So we'll
like
see.
hell. Like I thought I was in hell.
Okay.
Like I fell asleep and woke up and thought I was in hell.
Well, that's it. You,
Like,
you
that's
fell
bad.
asleep. You got to watch it all the way through. Maybe it'll make
I know.
more sense then.
I know. I mean, I kind of dozed.
Dude, no, he's right. Hell would be like stop motion. If I was in freaking Chicken Run, that's
It's not
hell.
all
I
stop
love
motion.
Chicken Run.
It's a hodgepodge of different
Yeah.
things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe I'll check that out. I don't know if we'll review it.
No, that one might be a little too. That might be a little too.
That's a good
See
off
that,
name.
people? You talk about hygiene. He just sneezed into the armpit, the
I'm
elbow
a-
pit.
Yep.
The elbow
And
pit.
I'm
He
gonna
did the dab.
clean my hands anyway. I'm gonna wash my hands after this anyway.
And you didn't even touch his hands.
So how about we figure it out and we'll just make a Facebook announcement on what we're reviewing.
We're gonna do that.
Okay.
I think that's best.
You said it.
We'll figure that out next week. Alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
And Bow. Bow. The god Bow. Bow.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.